UFOs in a Strange Universe. Welcome to UFOs in a Strange Universe. I'm Ivanhoe Chaput. I'm 78 years old, and I've been studying UFOs and the paranormal since my first UFO sighting when I was 13 years old. I hope you enjoy my experiences and personal views on the strangeness of the UFO phenomenon in the following chapters of UFOs in a Strange Universe. Forward, there are many books and videos on the subject of UFOs, and people with an interest in the subject will be familiar with much of the information herein. However, I posit my personal theories on the subject, having a lifelong history with UFOs. These theories reflect my interest in physics, near-death experiences, the paranormal, and the universe in its totality. I believe there is a crossover point between these subjects, and one cannot study the UFO phenomenon without including a study into these areas. Not only is the universe stranger than we think, it is stranger than we can think. This statement has been attributed to Werner Heisenberg, 1901 to 1976, and it was John Burton Sanderson Haldane, 1882 to 1966, that stated, "The universe is not only queerer than we suppose, but queerer than we can suppose." Several other prominent notables and physicists have closely reiterated that statement. From these brilliant minds comes the idea that the universe cannot be fully understood. Its complexity and the life therein is, for sure, an enigma. As a species confined to this earthly sphere, we can only gaze outward into the heavens and wonder about its vastness. Does it go on forever? Is there an edge that limits its continuance? What was there before its creation, and will time ever end its existence? Scientists and astronomers pose many questions about it, from its unfathomable gargantuan size to its infinitesimally small particles. And what about us, life individually existing in a self-conscious, sentient bubble, extending no farther than our perceptions of what we've learned from birth? From my viewpoint, there are two universes, the one out there, and the other within our consciousness. I was going to say here, within our heads, but I believe our thoughts extend beyond this, which I will elaborate on later. I've always believed that there is only one physical universe. The definition of the universe is described as, the universe is everything. It includes all of space and all the matter and energy that space contains. It also includes time and all our perceptions thereof. Within the physical universe are entities, human and non-human, that contain experiences of what their internal universe represents. In other words, the stuff out there versus the stuff within our thoughts. For the human race, as of 2024, there are about 8.142 billion people, each with their individual perception of experiences. Therefore, it can be said that here are 8.142 billion human universes. Each one of us is hence contained somewhere within the context of individual human consciousness. But what about non-human consciousness? And what I include here are every living soul. I believe animals have souls, microbes to whales that cohabit our planet. Every living entity, yes, even plants appear to exhibit some form of sentience. Do a search on Cleveland Baxter and read or listen to YouTube videos of what he discovered pertaining to plants. His work led to the understanding that plants can communicate on a level that many people refuse to believe. One of Cleve Baxter's experiments was duplicated on the television show Mythbusters. The result was that plants responded to the emotions of humans in ways that science cannot explain. In duplicating his experiments, Cleve Baxter was proven to be correct. In 1994, Dr. Emoto, a Japanese botanist, studied crystals and discovered profound differences in formations of identical water when exposed to various environments. He conducted an experiment with Dean Radin, an American parapsychologist, in 2005 that showed a remarkable difference in water crystal formation with water that was subject to positive thought treatment by some 2,000 participants while these crystals were placed inside an electromagnetically sealed chamber. The thought-treated water produced remarkably different patterns afterward than it did before. This prompted him to conduct experiments with cooked rice. He separated a batch of rice into 3 containers. On one container, he had written the words, "Thank you," and on another, "You fool." The third container had nothing on it. For 30 days, he had children walk by the containers with the words on them and had them repeat the words that were written. The children were told to ignore the third container altogether. What do you think the outcome of this experiment produced? Think about it for a moment before you draw a conclusion. The container that was ignored began to rot, and the others did not. Do you talk to your plants? I know my wife does. It is slowly coming evident that consciousness is therefore imbued within all life, and that would also entail all non-human life, including extraterrestrial, interdimensional, and spiritual. Life has always exhibited self-preservation. I use the example of the ant. When I was a young boy, I would play with ants in our yard. It was only natural to me that observing ants doing their thing, left to their devices, they would go about their business undeterred. However, when I went to touch them, they would take off like a bat out of hell, scurrying away from any supposed threat. I thought, now that's self-preservation. I also had a microscope that I used to watch pond water microorganisms with. One day, I decided to add a few grains of salt to the water. These microorganisms wiggled violently in the presence of the salt, and the next day, they were all dead. That was also self-preservation. Self-preservation can be construed as being universal throughout the universe, including the interdimensional realms and the spiritual realm. It can be defined as a universal trait all sentient beings have been endowed with. I believe there is also a universal trait that's prevalent everywhere in the universe, both human and non-human, and that's the desire for discovering anything that's unknown. If God exists, and I am one that believes in a creator, and is some base point for all that is, then life that has emanated and extended from this source is forever expanding into unknown territory. Not unlike us. Extraterrestrials and interdimensional non-human entities may be striving to learn about their existence, much like us. On the spiritual level, I'm not sure if the knowledge and understanding of our existence ever ends. Many people that have had a near-death experience come back and attempt to explain that they were made aware of any and every question and fought about everything they ever wanted to know. When they were there, anything and everything was answered instantly. Upon returning to their bodies, they understood that they were given this knowledge, but either were not allowed to retain it, or they could not retain it because of the physical constraints of their brain. This makes me wonder, could it be that the source, all that is, God, is not exactly all-knowing, but retains all the knowledge of the universe, but only to the degree of its own expansion? Is it possible that humans are disposed into this three-dimensional universe where we must follow laws of Newtonian physics, while extraterrestrial visitors, interdimensional entities, and possibly spirit entities might already be using the physics of the unimaginable? Then, on the other hand, are we not learning things of higher dimensional realms and spirit occurrences that are already within our physical universe? Will humans ever accept that there are strange anomalies that interact with us, which are unbelievable, only because they defy certain aspects of physical laws? Is telepathy, psychokinesis, clairvoyance, hauntings, and other paranormal phenomenon finally raising their heads in acceptance of these anomalies? Have we also experienced other things like extraterrestrials and visitations by non-human intelligence that are physical, have evolved with telepathic skills and leaped into technological futures that can only resemble magic? It appears to me in 2025 that we are nearing or are experiencing a turning point, a threshold of discovering that we are sharing the universe, including the non-physical aspect of it. Non-human entities would include extraterrestrials, interdimensional, extradimensional, spirit beings, and possibly others we have yet to understand. I contend that there are also what might be considered hybrid entities that make up a contiguous gradient of beings from this physical existence to the farthest extents of the spiritual realms. In respect to not being alone in the universe, I reiterate what Werner Heisenberg and others have stated. Not only is the universe stranger than we think, it is stranger than we can think.